The coffee mug crashed to the floor, splashing hot liquid across the white tile as Finley Adams backed away from the counter, her heart pounding against her ribcage. The customer leaned further over the cafe's service area, his alcohol-soured breath invading her space as his bloodshot eyes raked over her body. "I said I want your number, sweetheart. What's the problem? You're here to serve customers, right?" His voice carried through the half-empty cafe, causing several patrons to look up from their laptops and newspapers. "Sir, I've already told you I'm not comfortable with that," Finley replied, forcing her voice to remain steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Now please let me get you a fresh coffee and don't bother," the man sneered, reaching across the counter to grab her wrist. "I don't want coffee anymore, I want excuse me." A deep voice cut through the tension like a knife. A tall man in a charcoal suit stepped beside the harasser, his presence somehow immediately commanding without being threatening. "I believe the lady made herself clear." The drunk customer turned, sizing up the newcomer. "Mind your own business, buddy." The man in the suit didn't flinch. His calm gaze was unwavering as he positioned himself slightly between Finley and her harasser. "When you make a scene in a public place and put your hands on someone who's clearly uncomfortable, you've made it everyone's business." Finley watched as something in the drunk man's demeanor shifted. Perhaps it was the stranger's confident stance or the way several other customers had now turned in their seats, phones at the ready. Whatever the reason, the harasser backed away. Whatever. This place makes lousy coffee anyway. With a final glare at Finley, he stumbled toward the exit. Only when the door swung shut did Finley realize she'd been holding her breath. She exhaled slowly, looking up to thank her defender, meeting eyes that were a startling shade of blue-gray against olive skin and dark hair. "Thank you," she managed, grabbing a rag to clean the spilled coffee. "That was getting ugly. You shouldn't have to deal with that," he replied, kneeling to help pick up the larger pieces of the broken mug. "I'm Quinn, by the way, Quinn Zeller, Finley Adams." She accepted the ceramic shards he'd collected. "And unfortunately, it's not the first time something like this has happened." Quinn frowned, a small crease forming between his brows. "That's unacceptable. Does your manager have protocols for situations like this?" Finley shrugged, wiping up the last of the coffee. "Technically, yes, but Patty's off today, and I'm the senior barista on shift. The new girl just started yesterday." She gestured toward the nervous-looking teenager arranging pastries at the far end of the counter. The girl had been frozen in place during the entire confrontation. "Well," Quinn said, straightening up, "at the very least, let me replace my coffee. I'm afraid mine got cold during all the excitement." Only then did Finley notice the abandoned mug on a nearby table. "Of course, what were you drinking?" "Just a regular Americano." Quinn smiled, and something about the expression transformed his serious face. "And maybe a blueberry muffin to go with it. I've been eyeing them since I came in." As Finley prepared his order, she couldn't help stealing glances at him. He'd returned to his table and opened a sleek laptop, typing with efficient focus. There was something compelling about him, not just his looks, though those were certainly noteworthy, but the way he carried himself with quiet confidence. "One Americano and a blueberry muffin," she announced, setting them on his table. "On the house, least I could do." Quinn looked up, surprise crossing his features. "That's very kind, but completely unnecessary. I'd prefer to pay." "Consider it professional courtesy for knight in shining armor services," Finley insisted with a small smile. He seemed about to protest again, but instead nodded. "Thank you. Would you," he paused, looking around the now quiet cafe, "would you have time to join me, just for a minute?" "I promise I'm not trying to be like that other guy." Finley hesitated, then glanced at her coworker, who nodded encouragingly. "I guess I could take 5. She slid into the chair across from him, suddenly aware of her coffee-stained apron and the wisps of auburn hair that had escaped her ponytail during the earlier chaos. "So," Quinn said, closing his laptop, "are you a career barista or is this a stepping stone?" Finley laughed. "Both, maybe. I've been here 3 years while I finish my master's in library science, 2 more semesters to go." "A librarian," Quinn nodded appreciatively. That suits you. Does it? You've known me all of 15 minutes. He smiled again, that transformative expression. You have a certain thoughtful quality, patient but firm when needed. Those seem like librarian traits to me. And what about you? Finley asked. Let me guess, from the suit, finance, law, professional, superhero. Quinn's laugh was unexpectedly warm. Nothing so glamorous. I'm in publishing, actually. Really? What kind of publishing? Finley leaned forward, instantly more interested. I own Zenith Press. We specialize in educational materials and academic journals, though we've been expanding into trade publishing recently. Finley blinked. Zenith Press wasn't Penguin Random House, but it was significant in academic circles. Her own program used several of their textbooks. You own Zenith, the whole thing? Quinn nodded, looking slightly uncomfortable for the first time. I founded it about 12 years ago. It's grown more than I expected. The understatement hung in the air. Zenith was worth millions, which made Finley's mind reeled a bit. She'd been serving coffee to a Millionaire publisher, and she hadn't even recognized him. Your 5 minutes are up, called her coworker as the bell over the door announced new customers. Duty calls, Finley said, standing reluctantly. It was nice talking with you, Quinn. Likewise. He reopened his laptop but then looked up again. Finley. I know this is forward, but would you have dinner with me sometime? I'd like to continue our conversation. She hesitated only briefly before nodding. I'd like that. They exchanged numbers, and Finley returned to work with a strange, buoyant feeling in her chest. It wasn't until hours later, while wiping down tables at closing time, that she found the business card he'd left behind, weighed down by a generous tip. Quinn Zeller, CEO, Zenith Publishing Group. It read in elegant, understated type. The following evening, Finley paced her small apartment, second-guessing her outfit choice for the third time. She'd agreed to meet Quinn at a restaurant downtown, nothing outrageously fancy, he'd assured her, but nice enough to justify putting on something other than work clothes. She'd settled on a forest green wrap dress that her roommate Olivia insisted brought out her eyes. It was the nicest thing she owned that wasn't overtly formal. You look gorgeous, Olivia called from the couch, not looking up from her textbook. Stop overthinking it. I'm having dinner with a millionaire, Liv. Overthinking is mandatory. Olivia rolled her eyes. He's just a man who asked you out because he liked you, not because of your net worth, and if he turns out to be a jerk about money, you never have to see him again. The ride-share app on Finley's phone pinged. Car's here, wish me luck. Olivia finally looked up. You don't need luck, just be your amazing self, and text me if you need a rescue call. The restaurant Quinn had chosen was indeed nice, a farm-to-table place with exposed brick walls and Edison bulbs suspended from the ceiling. Not Michelin-starred intimidating, but definitely several steps above Finley's usual haunts. Quinn was waiting at a corner table, dressed in dark jeans and a navy button-down that made his eyes appear even more striking. He stood when he saw her, a warm smile spreading across his face. You look beautiful, he said simply as she approached. Thank you, Finley replied, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. This place is lovely. I've passed by but never been inside. They do amazing things with seasonal ingredients, Quinn said as they settled into their seats. The chef used to work at one of those places where dinner is a 4-hour experience with tweezers involved, but she wanted to make extraordinary food more accessible. Throughout the appetizers, a whipped ricotta with honey and lavender that made Finley close her eyes in appreciation, Quinn asked thoughtful questions about her studies and listened intently to her answers. There was none of the self-important monologuing she'd half expected from someone successful enough to own his own company. So how does someone even start a publishing house? Finley asked as their main courses arrived. That seems like a massive undertaking. Quinn cut into his roast chicken. It started much smaller. I was working as an editor at a textbook publisher when I noticed a gap in the market for certain specialized academic materials. I had some inheritance money from my grandfather, so I took the risk. He shrugged. I thought maybe we'd publish 10 or 15 titles a year. Now we're over 200. That's incredible, Finley said sincerely. Was your family supportive of the venture? A flicker of something sorrow, reservation, passed across Quinn's face. My parents passed away when I was in college, car accident, it's just my younger sister and me. I'm so sorry, Finley said, instinctively reaching across the table to touch his hand. It's been a long time, Quinn replied, turning his palm up to briefly clasp her fingers. Hannah, my sister, and I are very close because of it. She runs our international rights department now. The conversation flowed effortlessly through dessert, a chocolate soufflé that defied physics, and coffee. Finley found herself talking about things she rarely discussed on first dates: her parents' divorce when she was 12, her passion project of developing library programs for underserved communities, her secret dream of someday writing children's books. I should illustrate them, Quinn said, looking genuinely excited by her idea. I started in design before moving to editorial. I still sketch sometimes. A publishing magnate who illustrates children's books in his spare time, Finley teased. That would certainly surprise the business papers. Quinn's expression grew more serious. I've never much cared what the business papers think. The success is nice, but it's not why I do what I do. He paused. Would it be terribly forward if I said I'd like to see you again, maybe this weekend? Finley's heart skipped. Not terribly forward at all, I'd like that. Outside the restaurant, as they waited for their respective rides, the early autumn air had a pleasant crispness to it. Quinn hesitated, then leaned down to brush his lips against her cheek. Thank you for a wonderful evening, he said softly. As her car pulled away, Finley touched her cheek where the warmth of his lips lingered, wondering how a chance encounter with a belligerent customer had led to the most promising first date she'd had in years. Over the next 3 weeks, Finley and Quinn fell into a rhythm of dinners, walks through the city's parks, and long conversations that often stretched late into the evening. He took her to a private showing at an art gallery owned by a friend. She introduced him to her favorite hidden bookstore cafe, where the owner's cats roamed freely among the stacks. Despite his wealth, Quinn seemed most comfortable in settings where he could be anonymous: small restaurants, quiet parks, museums on weekday afternoons. He drove a luxury car, but not an ostentatious one, and lived in a renovated warehouse loft that was beautiful but not extravagant. Most people expect something different when they hear what I do, Quinn admitted one evening as they sat on his balcony watching the city lights come alive below them. Like a mansion with a helicopter pad, Finley suggested, sipping the excellent wine he'd opened. Something like that. I grew up comfortably but not wealthy. When the money started coming in, it never felt natural to suddenly live like a different person. Finley nodded. I get that, though I wouldn't mind a slightly larger apartment. My roommate and I are constantly negotiating bathroom schedules. Quinn looked at her thoughtfully. Have you ever considered moving? There are some nice places in this building. A small alarm bell rang in Finley's mind. Quinn, we've known each other less than a month. I'm not looking to move in with you. He looked startled, then laughed. No. I didn't mean with me. I meant just in the building, as neighbors. There's a 1-bedroom opening up on the 4th floor. He ran a hand through his hair, looking charmingly flustered. I swear I'm not trying to rush things. Finley relaxed, smiling. Sorry, I may have jumped to conclusions. Understandably, Quinn said. For the record, I'm very attracted to you and think about you constantly, but I also believe good things are worth waiting for. The sincerity in his voice made something warm unfurl in Finley's chest. She leaned forward and kissed him, soft and slow, her hand resting against his cheek. When they drew apart, Quinn's eyes remained closed for a moment longer. I've been waiting for that, he murmured. Me too, Finley admitted. The following Saturday, Finley invited Quinn to join her friends for their monthly board game night. She'd been nervous about the worlds colliding: her grad school and cafe friends meeting her successful, sophisticated boyfriend. They hadn't officially defined things yet. But Quinn arrived with a bottle of wine, homemade brownies, and a disarming willingness to be terrible at cards against humanity. By midnight, he was deep in conversation with Olivia's boyfriend about sustainable architecture, while helping Finley's coworker Jade strategize her moves in Settlers of Catan. Your millionaire is surprisingly normal, Olivia whispered when she caught Finley alone in the kitchen. And completely gone for you, by the way. You think? Finley asked, unable to suppress her smile. The man hasn't taken his eyes off you all night, even when getting absolutely destroyed at Pictionary. It's adorable. Later, as Quinn helped clean up despite Finley's protests, she felt a sense of contentment she hadn't experienced in a relationship before. He fit so easily into her world, showing genuine interest in her friends without trying to impress or dominate. It was past 1 when they finally left Finley's apartment. Standing in the hallway, Quinn pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her waist. "Thank you for including me tonight," he said. "Your friends are wonderful." "They liked you too," Finley replied, resting her hands against his chest. "Even Jade, who's suspicious of everyone with a net worth over 6 figures. Quinn laughed. "A healthy skepticism, but I hope I've begun to earn her trust." "You have." Finley hesitated, then added, "You've earned mine too." He looked at her with such tender intensity that her breath caught. "That means more to me than you know." Their kiss goodnight left her dizzy and longing for more, a feeling that followed her into dreams of blue-gray eyes and gentle hands. The following Tuesday, their plans to meet for lunch were derailed when Quinn texted that an emergency had come up with a major printing contract. Finley assured him it was fine and settled for a quiet afternoon at the library instead. She was deep in research for her thesis when a text from Olivia jolted her from her academic trance. "Sending this link because you need to see it before someone else mentions it. Don't freak out." Beneath was a link to a gossip blog Finley had never heard of. The headline made her stomach drop. "Publishing heir Quinn Zeller's new romance. Who is the mystery redhead?" The article featured several long-range photos Quinn and Finley entering a restaurant, walking through a park, standing close together outside her apartment building. The text was minimal but suggestive, wondering if the notoriously private CEO had finally found love after years of focusing solely on building his publishing empire. Finley felt violated and exposed. The photos themselves weren't scandalous, but the idea that someone had been following them, taking pictures without their knowledge, made her skin crawl. Worse were the comments beneath the article, speculating about her identity and relationship with Quinn in increasingly crude terms. Her phone rang. Quinn. "I just saw it," he said without preamble, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Finley, I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I've always tried to avoid." "It's not your fault," she said automatically, though her hands were still trembling, "but it's unsettling. I've already called my lawyer. The photos were taken without consent and there may be grounds to have them removed." He paused. "I understand if this changes things for you." "What do you mean, dating me? I try to keep a low profile, but occasionally this happens." "I'd understand if you decided it wasn't worth the invasion of privacy." Finley considered his words. The article had shaken her, but the thought of ending things with Quinn over it felt disproportionate. "I'm not going to let some creepy photographer dictate my relationships," she said firmly. "But maybe we should be more careful about where we go." The relief in Quinn's voice was palpable. "I'd like to see you tonight if that's okay, to talk about this in person." "I'd like that too." When Quinn arrived at her apartment that evening, his usual composure had given way to visible concern. As soon as Olivia discreetly retreated to her bedroom, he pulled Finley into a tight embrace. "I hate that you've been dragged into this," he murmured against her hair. Finley held him just as tightly. "It's not ideal, but it's not catastrophic either. No one at the cafe or in my program has mentioned it." Quinn drew back to look at her. "There's something else I should tell you. The timing's terrible, but after seeing that article, I don't want there to be any surprises." Finley felt a flicker of apprehension. "What is it?" "Next month, there's an annual publishing industry gala. As Zenith's founder, I'm expected to attend." He took a deep breath. "I'd like you to come with me, but it would mean being photographed, officially this time on the red carpet. It would make our relationship very public." Finley sat down on the couch, processing. "That's a big step." "It is," Quinn agreed, sitting beside her but giving her space. "And you can absolutely say no. I've attended alone for years." She studied his face. But you don't want to go alone this year. No, he said simply. I want you there, but only if you're comfortable with it. Finley thought about what it would mean officially stepping into Quinn's public life, being identified as his partner in an industry she hoped to work adjacent to someday. There were complications, certainly, but also a clear statement that what they were building together mattered. I'll need something to wear, she said finally. My one nice dress isn't gala appropriate. Quinn's face lit up with hope. Is that a yes? It's a yes, Finley confirmed, smiling as he pulled her close again. But I have one condition. Name it, I pay for my own dress. I know you could buy out Bergdorf's without blinking, but this is important to me. Quinn nodded, understanding in his eyes. Agreed, though I reserve the right to buy you ridiculously expensive earrings to go with it. Negotiation skills worthy of a CEO, Finley laughed, leaning in to kiss him. The 3 weeks before the gala passed in a whirlwind. Finley found a midnight blue gown on sale at a designer consignment shop, still more than she'd ever spent on clothing, but within her carefully budgeted means. Quinn kept his word about the earrings, presenting her with a velvet box containing sapphires that caught the light like tiny captured stars. They belong to my grandmother, he explained as Finley gaped at them. They've been in a safe deposit box for years. I'd like you to have them. Quinn, I can't accept these, they must be worth. He took her hands in his. Their monetary value isn't what matters to me. My grandmother would have loved you, your intelligence, your kindness, your determination. Nothing would make her happier than seeing these worn by someone like you. Faced with his earnestness, Finley found she couldn't refuse. Thank you, I'll treasure them. The night of the gala arrived clear and cool. Quinn had arranged for a car service, and when Finley emerged from her building, he was waiting beside the vehicle, devastatingly handsome in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. His expression when he saw her made Finley momentarily forget her nervousness about the evening ahead. He looked at her with such naked adoration that words seemed to fail him. You are breathtaking, he finally managed, offering her his arm. The red carpet was a blur of flashing cameras and Quinn smoothly guiding her through greetings with industry figures. He kept her close, his hand warm against the small of her back, introducing her with pride as Finley Adams, soon-to-be librarian and the most insightful reader I know. Inside, the ballroom glittered with chandeliers and the jewelry of publishing executives, literary agents, and the occasional celebrity author. Quinn was clearly respected throughout the room, receiving nods and handshakes wherever they moved. Quinn Zeller, as I live and breathe. A striking woman in a red gown approached, ere kissing Quinn's cheek, and with a date no less. The world truly is full of surprises. Vivian, Quinn nodded, his smile polite but reserved. May I introduce Finley Adams? Finley, this is Vivian Blackwell, editor-in-chief at Paragon Books. Charmed, Vivian said, assessing Finley with sharp eyes. And what do you do, my dear? I'm completing my master's in library science, Finley replied, refusing to be intimidated. How quaint. Vivian turned back to Quinn. I was devastated when you turned down my dinner invitation last month. We have so much to discuss about potential synergies between our companies. Quinn's expression remained pleasant but firm. As I mentioned then, Zenith isn't looking to merge or be acquired. We're quite satisfied with our independent status. Vivian's smile tightened. Everyone has their price, Quinn, even you. With a final calculating look at Finley, she moved on to another group. Sorry about that, Quinn murmured when she was out of earshot. Paragon has been trying to buy us out for years. No need to apologize. Though I think she sees me as some sort of obstacle to her plans. Quinn's lips quirked upward. She's not entirely wrong. I've always been dedicated to keeping Zenith independent, but knowing you, it's strengthened my resolve to build something lasting, something with real integrity. Before Finley could respond, they were interrupted by the arrival of a petite woman with Quinn's same striking eyes. Finn, this is my sister Hannah, Quinn said, his face softening with affection. Hannah, this is Finley. The famous Finley, Hannah exclaimed, embracing her warmly. Quinn hasn't stopped talking about you for weeks. It's driving everyone at the office crazy. Hannah, Quinn protested, a rare blush coloring his cheeks. What? It's true. Marcus in marketing has threatened to quit if he has to hear one more story about how amazing you are. She grinned at Finley. It's wonderful to finally meet the woman who's made my workaholic brother remember there's life outside the office. Finley liked Hannah immediately. For the next half hour, she regaled Finley with embarrassing stories from Quinn's college years, while he pretended to be mortified, but couldn't hide his pleasure at seeing the two women getting along. When dinner was announced, they were seated at a table with several of Quinn's executives and their partners. The conversation flowed easily, touching on industry gossip, upcoming book releases, and heated debates about literary adaptations. Finley found herself drawn into discussions where her perspective as a future librarian was genuinely valued. After the meal, as an orchestra struck up dancing music, Quinn led her to the floor. They'd never danced together before, but he guided her with the same gentle confidence he showed in everything else. "You're full of surprises," Finley murmured as they moved in perfect sync. "I didn't know publishing executives could dance like this." "My mother insisted on lessons," Quinn replied, his hand warm against her back. "Said it was a life skill I'd appreciate someday." His eyes held hers. She was right. They danced for 3 songs before Quinn suggested getting some air on the terrace. Outside, the city stretched before them, a tapestry of lights against the darkness. "Thank you for coming tonight," Quinn said, standing close behind her as she gazed out at the view. "I know it was asking a lot." Finley turned to face him. "Actually, I've enjoyed myself. Your colleagues are interesting, your sister is delightful, and you—" She placed a hand against his chest, feeling his heartbeat. "You look incredibly handsome in a tuxedo." Quinn's smile was slow and intimate. "Have I told you tonight how much I love you?" Finley's breath caught. It was the first time either of them had used that word. "No," she whispered, "you haven't." He took her face in his hands, his gaze holding hers with unwavering certainty. "I love you, Finley Adams. I think I started falling that first day at the cafe, watching you stand your ground against that drunk idiot, and I've been falling deeper ever since." Joy bloomed in her chest, bright and warm. "I love you too, Quinn, more than I thought possible after such a short time." When he kissed her, it felt like a promise of many more galas and quiet evenings, of debates about books and early morning coffee, of a future neither had anticipated but both now desperately wanted. Later that night, as they swayed together on her tiny apartment balcony, the formal wear exchanged for comfortable clothes, but the sapphire earrings still catching the moonlight, Finley marveled at the strange twists of fate that had brought them together. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if that customer hadn't harassed me?" she asked, her cheek resting against Quinn's shoulder. "If you hadn't stepped in," Quinn's arms tightened around her, "I'd like to think we would have found each other anyway. Maybe I would have finally worked up the courage to talk to the beautiful barista I'd been admiring for weeks." Finley pulled back to look at him. "Weeks? You'd been coming to the cafe before that day?" He nodded, looking slightly abashed. "Every Tuesday and Thursday for about a month. I kept meaning to say something more than my coffee order, but—" Quinn Zeller, fearless publishing magnate, was too shy to talk to me, Finley teased, delighted by this revelation. "Not shy," he corrected, smiling. "Just aware that the most intriguing woman I'd ever seen probably had better options than a workaholic with ink-stained fingers and a tendency to get lost in his head." "I don't know," Finley mused, reaching up to trace the line of his jaw. "Those ink-stained fingers turned out to be one of my favorite things about you." 6 months later, when Quinn proposed on that same small balcony with a vintage ring that had once belonged to his grandmother and a hand-illustrated children's book telling their love story, Finley said yes, before he could even finish asking the question. And 2 years after that, when they opened Starlight Books and Press a Combination bookstore, community library, and small publishing house specializing in diverse children's literature in an underserved neighborhood across town, Finley often thought about how a moment of conflict had led to a lifetime of happiness. How sometimes the worst encounters could lead to the best beginnings. How sometimes, when a stranger steps in during your darkest moment, they might just turn out to be the love of your life.